Daily Graphic says prosecute owners of gas stations whose negligence leads to loss of lives and properties. MPs yesterday on the floor of Parliament went into that debate. 58,000 trainee nurses to benefit from allowance. President and released autopsy reports of JB Major Mahama. Court orders 2 hospitals. The statesman jubilation galore as trainee nurses receive restored allowances. Time to sack officials for inaction. DI boss demands. The guide says Nana pays 58,000 nurses allowance. 232 million cedi hits account. The Ghanaian Times, nurses, midwives, allowances back. 232 million cedis hit account soon after restoration by President. The Heritage Indu Mons EC boss. And the Go Street Business talks about GNPC, Ghana Gas measure and the reconsideration. Those are some of the news. My guest this morning, senior lecturer from the University of Education, Winneba, Dr. Ahmed Chinapa. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hope you're doing great.
Yes, sir.
Right. Thanks so much for your time with us. Member of Parliament for a member of the NDC and member of Parliament for the Tamale South constituency, North constituency, pardon me. Alhaji Trainee is also here. Good morning too.
Good morning.
Hope you're
Thank
doing
you
great.
very much. It's a pleasure to be
Thanks for your time. And Dr. Henry Kwabena Kukufu is a senior partner at Systems Legal Consult, a former member of Parliament, a member of the NPP. Good morning too.
Good morning.
I hope you're doing great.
Very well.
We're grateful for your time with us. Gentlemen, let's start with this story, a quick one. The Ghanaian Times has a story captured on page 3, and it says that 13 suspects of the Delta Force, a vigilante group of the NPP who were facing trial for allegedly assaulting a public officer, appeared before a circuit court on Tuesday with a new charge of routing after several adjournments. This followed the withdrawal of earlier charges by the Attorney General's Department. Earlier, the 13 were accused of assaulting a public officer, conspiracy to assault, and causing unlawful damage. We're told that Assistant Commissioner of Police, ACP Ochredakun, prosecuting, told the Kumasi Metro Circuit Court that the Attorney General had withdrawn all earlier charges against them. He told the court that the suspects have been charged for routing, and the court, presided over by Ms. Mary in Century, consequently struck out the earlier charges. That's the story so far. Honorable Dr. Kokufu, let me begin with you. Even though the previous charges were one of demeanor, we're told routing is also a charge of misdemeanor. But the question is, did the police do good work before preferring the initial charges against them?
Well, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers, the President of the land, all key government officials, SITA leaders, and to my esteemed colleagues, including yourself, my people in Bantam and Ashanti region as well. Yes, I would say yes, and to some extent we may say no, because on countless occasions we've witnessed these situations in court where initial charges preferred against accused persons or alleged to have committed A, B, C, D turn out to be changed. So it's not a new thing. It has been occurring and reoccurring. You reckon that the police prosecuting on behalf of the Attorney General may have to refer the docket to the Attorney General for advice. And upon scrutiny, Attorney General has a duty to look at what's going to happen in court. Indeed, you prosecute with the sole aim of extracting conviction. Yes. And so if charges so preferred do not have enough evidence to stand on so you can achieve your aim, then of course you have other options, like you may throw away that kind of charges, and then the police may look into the circumstances and prefer new ones. So for me, it's a normal occurrence in court proceedings, and it's part of the procedures and rule of law, as the case may be. So I don't see anything big in here.
Above 80 years.
Yeah.
If you were, perhaps we saw what happened on TV. The men walked into the court. I mean, we couldn't have found any evidence against them.
No, you read the charges again. It was assault on...
Assault on a public officer, and several others. But then it changes into routing. So
the police, in the discharge of their professional duties, are looking into the circumstances and preferring the best charges that they can sustain on. And don't forget that evidence in court has to do with a whole lot of things, circumstantial and all that, core evidence and all kinds of things. So at this stage, the prosecuting is doing its work according to
what they have.
Yes, and the law, the procedures. So the law is taking its course.
All right. Honorable Trainee, so the police is suggesting that, for instance, they could not get evidence for assaulting a public officer, conspiracy to assault, and then causing unlawful damage. I mean, we saw on video these men go into the court. We even told the judge had to get up and leave, and yet it's for some legal analysts, it is strange that the police can't find evidence to charge them on those initial charges.
Well, thank you very much once again, and let me say good morning to my colleagues on the panel, and also good morning to our viewers. I would want us to approach this discussion dispassionately, with the mind that only a fool sits on a branch and cuts it at the same time. The branch in this case is Ghana, and so if it is well catered for, especially in terms of provision of security, it is to the benefit of all of us. And when we see some developments that threaten that fragile security that we have in the sub-region, I think we should all be concerned. Other countries that have rebels today did not just have the rebels falling from heaven, or from hell. It was as a result of some developments that they took for granted that led into the uncontrollable situations that they have today. And that's why I want us to approach this dispassionately. And having said that, I think that the development is not only sad, but to some it is surprising, but to me it's not. It's not surprising because, even though it is sad, because if you follow this and other related cases, you will understand that there's simply no willingness on the part of government, and for that matter, the state, to use these people as an example to discourage others from doing what they engaged in. There are two cases involved in this particular matter. First, we had these 13 people who were arrested for breaking into the regional coordinating council to manhandle the security coordinator, the regional security coordinator at the time. And when that video of how he was manhandled pushed from his office, and you could see even blood, and I'm sure that video is still on YouTube and other places if one wants to find it, and there was outrage. I recall one member of parliament, when they were arrested, making a pledge to secure their freedom, and threatened his government at the time that if they did anything by way of prosecution to these 13 people who had been arrested at the time, that there will be mayhem. Maybe the government thought he was blowing hot air, and the police, for that matter, thought he didn't mean what he was promising. And so they went ahead to take these 13 people to the court. And it was at the court that indeed mayhem was visited. And that is when 8 people were also arrested for manhandling the judge and disrupting court proceedings. Now, the first shock to many was when the Attorney General's office, remember, came out to enter a nolle prosequi in the case of the 8 people who manhandled the judge. And the minority at the time had cause to even call a press conference to address the matter, that it did not, you know, ensure, guarantee the safety and security of our court system and procedures in this country. And if for nothing at all, we expected an acclaimed human rights activist who is also a respecter of the rule of law, we are told, in this case, His Excellency the President, to be more concerned about such an affront to, you know, the judiciary. But a nolle prosequi was entered, and up till today, we don't know the status of that case involving the 8. What we do know is that the Attorney General discontinued the process of prosecuting them. Now, there was hope, even though I didn't have it. Some people had hope that maybe this 13 will be dealt with properly. Now, the 13 to who we saw in the video manhandling and assaulting the public officer, we are told, cannot be charged for that crime. But it has to now be replaced with rioting, which is a minor, you know, crime compared to the case of assault on a public officer. And that only will tell you, if you look at the chronology of events, that there is no willingness to do justice in this matter because of maybe what the Member of Parliament said when this case first came up, that these were their boys, these are their people who helped them to win the election, and so if they did anything to them, they were going to destabilize their party. But I think they must put the interest of the nation first. And it should rather be an opportunity for them to send a clear message out there that if you belong to our fold and you break the law, we are going to deal with you. And if that happens, another person who doesn't even belong to that fold will be scared to attempt any such thing. But if you have a situation where they are pampered, promises are made that nothing will happen to them, and we are seeing examples of how nothing is really going to happen to them by the actions of the state's institutions, then I find it very worrying. And remember, we had a similar case at the Flagstaff House, ACP Nanka Bruce, who was manhandled, you know, at the Flagstaff House just around the time of the transition. We saw that video. It also went viral. He was pulled down from his vehicle in uniform. He was manhandled. When a question was asked of this case in Parliament, the Minister of Interior came to Parliament and boldly told the whole nation that they could not find the people and that they are still looking for the people who did that. Meanwhile, the Flagstaff House, we all know, is a security zone, and nobody gets access to that place without leaving any record. You can't just walk to the Flagstaff House and walk out without traces. You may have an appointment with somebody, even if you don't, and you get to the reception, you'll be made to fill a book, you know, that shows who you are and where you are coming from and who you want to see. But the Interior Minister came to Parliament and told us that the people who had access to our seat of government operated and left without any traces. If for nothing at all, if we want to believe him, then I think the Flagstaff House is not even safe. If people can have access to that place and engage in the kind of acts that they engage in and leave no traces and we can't find them, I don't think, you know, we should take a matter such as that lightly. All so, right, I am sad, but not surprised. And I think that the state handlers must put the interests and the security of this nation first and make it paramount, instead of this attempt to if you like, placate people they think worked for them to get the victory. The fact that they worked for them to change Ghana does not insulate them from acts that will affect this country after they have gotten the mandate to change this country.
I'm grateful. Dr. Chinapa, the issue of the vigilante groups is all on the minds of people, and efforts are being made by civil society, the police and security agencies to get political parties to stop engaging in this. So perhaps watchers would have thought that a handling of this case will result in these groups being disbanded. The way it is going, what is the signal?
Well, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers and to my colleagues. I think if you look at this particular issue where 13 individuals, young men, who identify themselves as members of a group, Delta Force, right? And they work for a political party, went into a court because colleagues of DS were arrested one way or the other to release them. If that group is going to be described as vigilantism, I disagree with you in the sense that
this is even the group that actually went to the regional coordinating council to remove the man they claim is not from
their actions. Their actions are wrong. Their actions are illegal. That needs to be stated. But when we say we have groups who are engaged in vigilantism and they are being protected or they work for a political party, I think it will be overstretching the case. But let's get to this particular issue. Why is this issue of relevance and importance such that we are discussing it? Because we follow the chronology of events. The chronology of events in the sense that anybody who follows politics in this country knows that what those guys did was not rioting. They didn't go to riot. I tried to look for the definition of rioting. Rioting, we are talking of a public disturbance where people, when we were in school, we used to call it demonstration. You go to the dining hall, you go and charge. And in fact, you don't have the intention of harming anybody. But this particular situation was not rioting. We had a situation whereby a group of people were arrested. They were supposed to be prosecuted. These guys went into freedom. And even from the narrative that was being given, the judge had to take cover. So you can't tell me this is rioting. But I think it brings out a bigger issue that needs to be discussed. A bigger issue in the sense that what is the place and role of government or government in power relative to what? Certain security agencies in terms of how they perform their duties. Because these charges are not professed by Nanado or the NPP. They are professed by what? The police. Was there any government hand in it? Especially when at a point in time the President of the Republic said, look, anybody who misbehaves, I'm going to bring the President to what? To book. Honorable Sunini makes reference to an MP who says that these guys are part of it, so don't do anything to them. Today, what we are being told is that a different charge or a lesser charge is professed against them. How does that augur well for the instillment of discipline in this country? It's very, very important and critical. Do we allow state agencies to do their work devoid of any kind of interference? I'm not saying there's interference, but by virtue of the chronology of events, this marks of what? Political interference. We look at Daily Graphic, front page, prosecute gas owners, gas stations. We are saying that the EPA is not doing its work, NPA is not doing its work. Why are they not doing their work? They are not doing their work because there's some semblance of what? Political interference. And this particular issue is a case in point and a good reference point. So I am not going to get into the political gymnastics of it. What would have been the reverse if NDC was in power? Probably it would have been the same. I use the word probably because they are not. But I think we need to move beyond this. When people do the wrong thing, they need to be what? Punished. Right. I think the biggest challenge that we have in this country is that people are not held accountable for their actions. You need to be accountable. When you are given a certain responsibility, you need to be accountable. What those boys did was a bad thing. If you remember, even Chambers spoke to this thing. It was not as simple as rioting. It's not and cannot be. And I think this charge is a charade. It's a charade. Nobody should more or less try to bless it or justify it. This is an indictment on the police, I must say it. It's very unfortunate. You charge these people for this charge when we all know that that wasn't the charge or that wasn't the offense. I think we need to more or less bring some semblance of, rule of law. And I've always said it, this country, it's not as if the laws do not work, but the people who apply the laws do not apply it well. And this particular case is a case in point.
I'm grateful, Dr. Jenepo. We'll move on, because I want us to deal with more issues. Let's talk about the nurses and midwives. The Times says that 232 million cedis is how much government is spending. There was a jamboree by student nurses and midwives who were present at the Sunyani Nursing and Midwifery Training College yesterday, where they received text messages indicating that the allowances had hit their accounts. This was after the president and his entourage arrived at exactly 10:32 a.m. to launch the restoration of the allowance for trainee nurses, midwives in public health and training institutions in the country. Speaking at the Deba, President Nanado stated that the restoration of the allowance for the students was to ensure the training of quality health professionals, as well as address inequality and challenges trainee students go through in their chosen career. He said that the cancellation had brought untold hardships on them, and he promised to restore the allowance during the 2016 campaigns. He noted the critical role the health sector played in the socio-economic development of the country cannot be overemphasized, and that his administration was poised to train more professionals to render efficient and quality healthcare services to the people. So again, the president said that 16,000 health personnel have been employed under his 9-month administration, promising to employ more before the end of the month. So the students will receive monthly allowance of 400 for 10 months for the academic year. The president again said that there are measures to ensure the policy is sustained. Honorable Sunyani, let me begin from you. This was a campaign promise. It was a tussle between your party, the NDC, and the NPP. And your suggestion was that leave the allowance, open admission, and get more of these students in. The president, the NPP then said, well, we can pay the allowances and still allow more people in. The allowances have been paid. Perhaps the NPP argued better than the NDC during the campaign?
Well, again, Bright, let's put the interest of this country first in this discussion. And that will determine for us if the NPP argued better or they propagandize better. And if you observe a number of things that have been happening since especially March, you realize that there is a very determined effort by government to reduce governance to platitudes, big headlines, and just propaganda. A very, very serious effort to reduce the serious issue of governance to just platitudes, to big headlines, to jamborees. I mean, restoration of an allowance calls for the president and his entourage to burn fuel that is so expensive today in their big Land Cruisers, to erect billboards, to organize such a lavish deba at the expense of the taxpayer. What is this if not just propaganda and platitudes, and then they get the big headlines on the newspapers. And again, like I said, let's put the impact of this on the nation in context. We currently have a nurse-to-patient ratio of 1 to 22. Now, Bright, and all those viewing today, how is an allowance of 400 or less Ghana cedis a month to a nursing trainee going to breach this ratio? How? how is an allowance to a nurse undergoing training going to make sure that we have more nurses in the hospitals and clinics that we all want in our communities?
You don't think some cannot complete their training without the allowance?
We have the student loan scheme that is available for every student in this country undertaking tertiary education and having financial problems to access. It is a scheme that developed countries also use. And if you go to the Western world, people access loans if it has to come through their parents to undertake their education and pay back when they get employment. And we're talking about nursing in this country where, by and large, you have guarantee of employment when you come out. So it is not a case where when you take the loan and you come out, it accrues interest whilst you are still looking for a job. You have some level of guarantee of a job. Now again, let's look at how the NDC positioned its argument. This, for me, is about the today, satisfying the pleasures of today, refusing to endure the discomfort of today that guarantees you a better tomorrow. The NDC's proposal was that, yes, we have a situation where the nurse to patient ratio is unacceptable. We also have a situation where our training institutions have the capacity to train more. But this capacity is limited by a government decision which was started long ago to entice people to undertake this training. Today, there is no need for that enticement because everybody wants higher education and people have seen the value of even undertaking nursing education. So if the institutions have the capacity to train more and the country needs more, why allow an impediment that is also a cost on government to be in the way? So the NDC as a party said, let's remove this thing that looks like comfort to the people undertaking the training and replace it with a student loan where they can access these loans like any other tertiary student, get more people into the training schools that already have the capacity to train more nurses and midwives so they can man our clinics that we are building. And you know the NDC built a lot, and the hospitals that we are building, and you know we did a lot also. So this was progressive, this was futuristic, and this was building a nation. And this is, the allowance restoration is winning an election.
It is not building a nation?
It is, that's what I'm saying. Tell me how the restoration of the allowance is going to bridge the ratio, the nurse to patient ratio that I talked about.
Perhaps some students who would have dropped out because they could not get a few cities to fund education will not be able to continue.
As a result of this introduction, you are saying perhaps that is a probability. I am telling you that as a result of this policy, and it is a fact, that about 1,700 people could not have admission this year.
Because the schools
did
not have the capacity?
No, because the schools were given a quota. Because, this is in comparison.
The regulator said that it is because the schools do not have the capacity to admit these students, and not because of a quota system.
Right. Maybe if they had maintained the figures that the schools admitted last year, they could have made that argument that since last year, the schools have not expanded their capacity and infrastructure. So they are maintaining the figure they admitted last year. But the figure has dropped by 1,800. And that's why I'm saying about 1,800 will not have the opportunity. It could be more because every year, if you look at the trend, it has been increasing. So the logical expectation would have been that this year it will increase. But I'm even being considerate, and I'm saying that let's assume that we're not going to even increase admissions this year, and we're going to maintain the record of admissions last year. We would have had 1,700 thereabout people with the opportunity to become nurses or midwives this year. But as a result of this, you were doing probabilities. I'm telling you what the evidence is on the ground.
That's the evidence you have.
The evidence on the ground is that about 1,700 cannot become nurses or midwives, at least not this year. They won't have the opportunity.
Because there is from entering?
Yes, because there is a restoration of an allowance. And that, what does that do? It increases the nurse to patient ratio.
Let me speak to Dr. Kokofu. Doc, so the president indeed said that the 400 cities will go a long way to support these trainees who otherwise would have dropped out. But the key question is that you restore the allowances and shut the door to some people from entering.
That's not true. That is not true. I now understand why the NDC government do not have a single pro-poor intervention, social intervention to their record. Now I do understand. Because they do not think about the ordinary person out there. My colleague here is just talking about comfort. He thinks giving 400 Ghana cedis to a poor nursing trainee is a comfort. But he knows, between he and myself, the kind of comfort that the elites, the ruling class, are enjoying at the expense of the ordinary person, the ordinary taxpayer. The kind of comfort that he himself and myself, together with other colleagues in government, in all sectors of government, the three arms of government, are enjoying at the expense of the taxpayer. So a poor woman at my village in Emredani has a daughter in this training college receiving 400 Ghana cedis of state money. And you sit here and say it's a comfort that she does not deserve. Now, NDC had argued that yes, we are opening up more intake.
A quick one. His suggestion is that don't give the money free, but let that person access a loan.
Loans are not free. Loans are repayable. And we, the elitists, our comfort that is being subsidized by the taxpayer are not payable. Yes. He says here, he only knows how much Ghana coughed out for him to, as an MP, to rent a house. He knows. Free of charge. I enjoyed it. And Parliament coming in will be enjoying. Do you know fuel subsidies that the elitists, the ruling class, are enjoying at the expense of the public? Now, they argued that yes, we want more intake, so the quota system out, that is what. And then again, there was no money. The allowances was a pressure on state resources. The president said emphatically. So there were no money. Yes, of course, there wouldn't be any money. Because you were busy paying dubious judgment debts. After dissipating the state coffers and everything, nothing was left for these nursing trainees. So the only thing was to scrap it. Your priority was to enrich yourself and your cronies and those people you thought deserved better and more of Ghana resources other than the poor ordinary people in the country. So that was your priority. The priority here now is to share the national cake equally and for each and every person to have a piece of it. What is the crime that the president have committed? Restoring this nursing trainee. Run down to 2016. You yourself and the president then recognize the danger and how difficult the scrapping was bringing on board to your campaign. And you are talking about the president going to Sunyani to launch this as a grandeur, as a waste. The president then, the sitting president, had to go to Cape Coast with state machinery and everything, and then made a very, very categorical statement on this scrapping of the allowance, to the effect that even if it is going to cost him his presidency, he will not restore it.
That's a leader.
That's a leader. Yes,
that
okay.
Is a visionary leader.
Good. So he had the right to go to Cape Coast on state machinery and everything to go and make statement on the allowance. But the current president do not have that leverage to go to Sunyani and make statement on the restoration of it. That is your take. And so now, a situation that has cost you, and the president knew it was going to cost him, because the people of Ghana, it was so dear to the people, to the heart of the people of Ghana, and you denied them. You denied them, cruelly denied them this piece of the pie. And we have a government who has come into place. We should be asking ourselves, because you said that it was an empty talk, a political rhetorics. Where are you going to find the money? You cannot do it. Even after elections, as recent as January, February, March, you were asking us to go ahead and do it. You said you do it. Go ahead and do it. And now here it is. Being rolled out, one after the other. Here it is. And you are bemoaning. You are shifting the goalpost. I believe by now, as politicians and as leaders of this country, we must be bowing our heads in shame for not being able to manage the resources of this country properly, not being able to protect the coffers of this country. We've, over the past years, dissipated national resources. Our priorities were simply not right. Our priorities were simply not right. It was not geared towards people's development. Now we have, thanks to God, we have a regime that says, no, we must change. There must be a paradigm shift. We must go to the basis where we can hold our hands together. We can bring the downtrodden, the poor, the vulnerable up through little means. You're talking about 400 Ghana cedis being a comfort. The past president had to come to parliament, make huge headlines about he offering leap of 45 Ghana cedis to a woman to have undertaken a piggery project in parliament. He held her hand. That was not propagandist. That, you did not see anything wrong with that. But you have a president who has restored a very much needed allowance for a total of how many? 58,000.
58,000.
58,000. You told us that the scrapping has helped to increase from 27,000 intake to 47,000 intake. That's what you told us last year. Today we are talking about 58,000.
So the allowances are paid, and so we have the intake.
Exactly, the figures are speaking for themselves.
I see.
Okay. Honorable Okucheto Blakwa.
So we have 58,000 trainee nurses and midwives.
Let's be honest, please.
No,
Let's be honest.
Allow him.
Allow me.
No,
Allow me.
So he said there was 27,000.
Of course, you have done admissions this year, so you expect it to increase.
It was 27,000.
You sat here. You sat here to lie between your teeth.
How?
That, yes, it has reduced by 1,800.
Yes.
You sat here.
Yes.
Playback.
No, so let me explain to you. If you
no, please allow me. When you were speaking, I was listening.
You have done admissions.
Please,
you allow him. I will come to you after Dr. Jennifer has
Be
spoken.
the honorable person you expected to be, and allow me, because I allowed you.
Please go
I
on.
sat here and you rantled and all that.
Please
and
go
I was
on.
looking up.
Intake is not 58,000. Please go on.
Honorable Okucheto Blakwa, the former deputy education minister, told the whole nation 2016 that yes, they scrapped it to allow for more intake. And that is on record From 27,000, it has jumped to 47,000.
That's all the admissions for training colleges?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yesterday, per the records, we are being told that about 58,000 students are going to enjoy. You sit here and tell everybody that there has been a shortfall compared to last year's figures. I do not know where you have your figures.
Okay.
Now, so he asked a very interesting but laughable
wrap
question.
up for me. All right.
He said, how is it going to help bridge the
nurse-patient ratio?
And you rightly answered him. The president has said, there are countless of these students who wouldn't have made it because of hardships in the household, because of a lot of factors that list out. Go and look at their backgrounds, and you get to know from very, very, very poor households. Some are orphans, some are, I mean, they simply do not have guardians. And if you do not appreciate the little things, maybe at your level, you are looking at bigger things. That's okay by you. But the ordinary man there, out there, the market mummy at the Bantama market this morning, in the afternoon, you go to Makola, the ordinary taxi driver who is viewing your show today, the trotro man listening to your show, appreciates these little things when government puts in place to help the ordinary man.
I'm grateful. Dr. Jinapo, so...
I don't know if you will let me be. Dr. Jinapo will, since he will wrap it nicely as usual.
No, but you allow him to also come in. Allow him to come in and then you come in. Dr. Jinapo, let me pick your thought on this. 58,000 people benefiting.
Well, it's an interesting development. Interesting in the sense that it's a political issue and it's also an intellectual academic issue. And when I listened to Honorable Suwini make his presentation, I said I should have been making this presentation because it's more professorial. Professorial in the sense that, yes, the NDC thought that, look, let's scrap this allowance so that we'll increase intake. You understand what I'm saying? And when we scrap the allowance, it means that we are able to let more people enter the school. But you also have to look at it from the political perspective. And I think Honorable Kukufu runs it. And their position stuck. It was a debate. This was a big issue.
Right.
In 2016, it was a campaign issue, and theirs was accepted. But let's come to what is happening in the future. The future, moving forward. Nursing training allowance has come to stay. And if you remember, it was scrapped in the 2013-2014 academic year. Today we are in the 2017-2018 academic year, 4 years ago. But there's a discrepancy in terms of the reportage. I don't know which paper we are looking at. But this paper,
this is Ghanaian Times.
Ghanaian Times says that the money has hit their account.
Yes, that's what. So you find the nurses here holding aloft their phones.
Yes, and
suggesting
you look
that
at Daily Graphic. Daily Graphic says that the money is yet to be paid.
And that's not matter.
No, let me finish.
Platitudes, big airlines, propaganda.
The money is yet to be paid. Now, whether it is yet to be paid or it has been paid, at least there's a commitment. There's a roadmap. That notwithstanding, we are talking of 58,000 nursing trainees. I'm not sure whether the 58,000 encompasses every student in the nursing school from first year to final year. You understand? We need to know that. And beyond that, we are talking of 232 million Ghana cedis for a year. Right, 232 million Ghana cedis for a year. That's a huge chunk of money. As free SHS, we are talking of what? 400 million Ghana cedis for what? A year.
A term?
So, is it a term or a year? A term. So, in as much as I think government needs to be commended for at least fulfilling a promise. This was a campaign promise, and some people were doubtful whether it could be what? It could be fulfilled. And mind you, we are not talking of an innovative gesture. As I indicated, this was something that was there before.
Right.
It was there before, and it was repealed by the previous government because of certain reasons. And this government has come to what? To restore it. How do we sustain it?
So at best, it's really innovation.
How do we sustain it? But, Brian, you see, I think there's a bigger picture to this thing that we need to look at. In the sense that, look, gone are the days there were two professions that were very attractive to people, teaching and nursing. My mother was a nurse, and I'm a teacher. And these are jobs that, excuse me to say, it wasn't because of the allowance. Of course, some people benefited from the allowance, but because of guaranteed what? Employment security. Today we have Unemployed Nurses Association. Just not too long ago, they picketed at what? What do they call it? The Ministry of Health.
But Doc, you know they've been started.
Oh, Ramon, now you are here.
I'm happy.
Propaganda. Okay.
Right.
You go on.
We have a lot of unemployed teachers, graduate teachers. We have graduate unemployment.
And they are being employed now.
Those.
Okay.
I'm not looking at this thing from the political angle. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not interested in the politics of
go
it. I'm looking at. So I think this government has enormous responsibility. Enormous responsibility in terms of helping to what? To employ what? These people. We know free SHS. We know the numbers as it has increased. With an increase in the numbers at the free SHS level, trust me, in 2, 3, 4 years, there's going to be what? An exponential increase in the number of what? Intake when it comes to what? These nursing institutions. Because if now most people get access to free SHS, the likelihood of them getting into these nursing training colleges is going to be very high. How are you going to cater for them? So I am more interested in looking at the long-term effect of these things when it comes to what? Our economy. Yes, the politics is good. Give credit to where it is what? It is due. Nanado made a number of what? Audacious promises. Audacious. Because some of us were more or less cynical in terms of how these promises could be what? Could be. I mean, the truth needs to be said. There's no doubt about it.
The doubting Thomases.
The truth needs to be said.
Yeah,
but the fact is that we are talking of a first year. 400 million for, what do they call it, for free SHS. That is a term, right? A year we are talking about 1.2 billion. We are talking of 232 million for what? For what do they call it? For nursing training allowances. We haven't even spoken about teacher training what? Allowances. Where are we going to get all this money from? The president has indicated that he's going to take the money from oil revenue. And I have said on this platform, is that money sitting idle? No. The money is used for something as it stands now.
No.
So, no, Honorable, let me land.
Okay,
You've interjected for so many. So the money is sitting, it's not sitting down idle. The money is being used for something. Unless you are telling me the savings that we'll be making from the oil revenue, I think there's a certain money that way, is a heritage fund or whatever it is. If that is what is going to be used for, that's a difference. But I think at the end of the day, every Ghanaian wants this country to move forward. And if giving nurses allowances is one that is going to improve quality of what? Work. It's one that is going to what? Inspire people to do their work well in terms of what? Nursing training, we go for it. But once we are doing that, we need to be mindful and conscious of the fact that this state or this country has so many needs. And we need to be extremely cautious in how we what? We distribute our resources. Because we must be very mindful of the fact that it shouldn't negatively impact other sectors of the economy.
Let me give you a few minutes to react quickly. Because
let me say that I am surprised, or I was surprised about the emotional outburst of Dr. Kukofu just a while ago, because I failed to see the trigger. But the point that he made about an increase in the number of people undertaking the nursing training this year.
From 27,049, said 58,000.
It's laughable. Because you see, if we said that the admissions had increased from 27,000 to 47,000 last year.
Because of the scrapping.
Because of the scrapping. Remember, right, that the increment was not, I mean, the fact that there was no allowance was not unknown to these people who went to school. That is one evidence that even without the allowance, people will still go to school and want to be trained as nurses. Now, if the figure stood at 47, right, and even this year, the schools admitted 100, wouldn't the number increase?
They should, logically.
But if last year they admitted 2,000, and that brought the figure to 47,000, and this year they admit 100, and that make it 47,100. 47,100. Doesn't mean, so I don't get his point. Obviously, because you have done admissions this year, the number will increase. But comparatively, if we did 2,000 last year and you do 1,200 this year, that is a reduction.
Okay.
No,
so that is a.
Let's go by. If last year, I'm coming very quickly.
In terms of admissions,
if it was 27,000, right?
Yeah.
And it moved to 47,000, it means that there was an increment of 20,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And today it's 58,000.
Yeah.
From
That's
47
about
to
1,000.
58,000, then that means there's an increment of 11,000.
Right.
Which definitely there's a drop.
There's a drop.
It's
And
very,
that's the
but
point I
if these
made.
figures are right,
If these figures are right.
so right,
So
that
aside,
simple
because you have given me.
no, if the
because-
figures are right.
Gofu, quickly before I wrap up, we saw the training colleges and we
Please,
saw the
right,
figures.
I was still on the floor.
Yes, but I quickly want to put this out to him. We saw the training colleges listed. We saw the figures they admitted last year. They were told to cut some by 100, some by 90, some by 50, 100, and the rest. So certainly there's a drop.
No, listen to me. I was quoting my colleague.
Yes,
Honorable.
and
He said, even if this year's intake had come to par with last year's, we would have given the credit. But unfortunately, this year's intake is, the figures are below last year's. That is what he said.
That's the point.
I don't agree.
No, do you agree? You do not. Now they are sitting right. I'm coming.
We saw the list of training colleges.
No.
Clearly, we were told that, for instance,
And the total- I don't want- I
training
think the
college.
viewers-
The totality is 58,000. Yes. Last year, it stood at 47,000. So there is a marginal, there's a nominal increment. Sure.
Oh, okay.
That is it.
Okay.
So you have an increment.
Okay, I see.
If you are talking about marginal and percentages, then that's another issue. So you cannot shift the goalpost.
Okay.
And you see,
No, please, right. I was on the floor. You just.
no,
He is wrapping up. I just asked you a question. He's wrapping up.
Let me react to Doc about this oil money. No, I'm wrapping up. The oil money.
I'm coming.
The oil money.
We are even wrapping up.
The oil money.
That's why I don't want you to tell me we have wrapped up.
You
When
see,
I
you see
have
the oil
something
money.
to take.
That Doc has some. He asked some questions and all that. He said, "Well, the money is not sitting idle and
Of course.
all that." Yeah, but let me say here that per the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, the 70% of the income, the revenue coming in, 70% is allotted to the ABFA, the annual budgetary funding allocation, and government has the right
To use it.
to come to Parliament with 4 thematic areas that the monies can be used. Under NDC, consistently, in every 3 years, you can change it. Government can change it. And consistently for NDC, the 4 thematic areas they came up with was amortization of loans, number 1, construction of roads, 3, modernization of agriculture, and 4, capacity building.
Right, I don't think you are being fair.
PIAC, Public Interest Accountability Committee, has persistently indicted the Minister of Finance and government in totality about the way they've been using the ABFA.
Okay.
So, priority rating, the Kufuor government may
I
decide
think
to
you have
use
reacted to
ABFA.
Dr. Jinapo's issue.
But-
Alaji, then wrap up for me.
Sorry,
I had to
I
come
wouldn't
in.
get a chance.
You know,
No, you will.
Dr. Kokofu said something about the choices that we make in government and talked about people in privileged positions. And that again takes me back.
then-
Can I
and-
finish
and
up?
then
I didn't
dubious
interrupt
loan-
you.
dubious
I didn't
judgment.
interrupt you.
The payment of dubious judgment.
Doc, please allow me.
Yes,
Don't pick and
you were
please allow me.
advocating for one to be honorable. I hope you will take your own advice.
Yeah, give me my own.
So I hope you will take your own advice.
Yeah.
Now, the point is that it is amazing that as a country, we talk of the need for us to get leaders who are generational thinkers, who think about the next generation and not the next election. Yet when we see such visionary leaders, we fail to recognize them. Dr. Kokofu stands here and he says, and has a problem with it, that the former president said he didn't mind losing the next election because he believed what he was doing was for the next generation. Okay, because and that's what I'm saying. We talk of next. You know, people
Gentlemen,
don't think of next year.
I'm sorry. I need to.
That is what I was complaining about. That you are going to be unfair to me.
Alhaji, I'm sorry for being unfair to you and Dr. Jenapo. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being unfair to you, Dr. Jenapo. We have to wrap up. Dr. Ahmed Jenapo is a senior lecturer from the University of Education, Winneba. Doc, I'm sorry for being unfair to you.
I think that all
Honorable Alhaji Suhini
wrap up on
is a member of parliament for
all tertiary students who are currently on student loan should advocate for free money, because that's what I'm saying.
And Dr. Henry Kukufu is a senior partner assistant legal consult, a former member of parliament. I'm grateful, gentlemen. Those of you who send your comment, we'll read them. Let's step on the brakes. We'll tell you exactly what it means to bleach and the dangers associated with it. Stay with us. This is NewDay.
Skin lightening products prevent or inhibit pigmentation, including brown spots and freckles, consisting of anti-aging features. Although skin whitening products were initially aimed at facial care, the trend has changed, with companies offering products for overall skin care. Another trend in the skin lighteners market is the introduction of lightening products for men. Health experts say in Ghana, about 30% of women use lightening cream. A report from the global industry analyst in 2009 declared skin lightening a $10 billion industry globally and is expected to hit $23 billion by 2020. In Ghana, hydroquinone is one of the most popular skin bleaching products on the market, used to reduce the appearance of age spots, freckles, and other skin discolorizations. It works by reducing the amount of pigment created in the skin, which makes it look lighter. Additionally, the indiscriminate and extensive use of cosmetics containing hydroquinone can lead to the thinning of the skin, poor wound healing, the development of permanent stretch marks, excessive sweating, bad odor, among others. While other countries, including Australia, the United States and Japan, have cracked down on bleaching, the directive in Ghana to ban such products is significant, given the popularity of such products on the market. In January this year, the Food and Drugs Authority also stopped registering cosmetic products on the market that contain hydroquinone, a move intended to promote public safety among Ghanaians. The authority says it has launched sensitization programs against the sale of the product in the market. Despite these measures to control the sale, importation and use of these products, and also to protect consumers from potential health risks associated with abuse of hydroquinone-based creams, such creams continue to find their way in some cosmetic shops in the country. Health experts say while 2% hydroquinone-based cream causes minimal skin damage, most of the skin lightening products on the Ghanaian market contains 5 to 8% hydroquinone, in addition to cortisone, vitamin A and mercury. Some traders who deal in cosmetic products at the Central Business District in Accra say although there are other products containing natural extracts which are more effective and safer, some consumers still opt for hydroquinone creams despite the health concerns raised by dermatologists.
Those who produce the products nowadays use more fruits like pawpaw, avocado and carrot in producing the pomade, which enlighten the skin.
Still sell them at the shop, like these Abidjan lotions and these foreign lotions. You'll find hydroquinone in it.
We have a lot of creams that bleach, a lot of cream with hydroquinone in them.
The Food and Drugs Authority has warned persons who indulge in skin bleaching to desist from the practice, since they stand the chance of not only damaging their skin, but also giving room to all manner of skin infections and other diseases. The Food and Drugs Authority says it will also screen all cosmetic products to ensure such creams are off the market. Manufacturers, retailers, importers and traders have been informed of the need to desist from selling hydroquinone-based soaps and creams.
The ones that you say are on the market are not supposed to be on the market. Any product with hydroquinone on the label, be it a cream, a lotion, a milk, a serum, a soap, It's not permitted and it's not allowed. So if it's on the market, then it contravenes the law.
For this directive to be enforced, it appears the Food and Drugs Authority and all relevant stakeholders need to intensify advocacy on the strict enforcement of the ban of creams containing harmful bleaching agents, particularly hydroquinone, to promote public health and safety.
Well, we're going to discuss an app that has been produced because recently with gas explosions, I'm sure you'd be happy to have this app on your phone to prevent gas explosion. We're talking about Smart Gas app, and that's what it's dealing with. I have Efia Trema. She's the PR and marketing for Smart Gas here with me. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Very well, by God's grace.
We thank God in the light of recent explosions. I'm happy you're alive and well.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, Efia, so what brought your company to the realization that maybe this app is something that Ghana needs as of now?
You know, it's been a while, but it's become almost as though gas explosions is the norm now.
Right.
And it's not just gas explosions, it's in our homes as well.
It is.
So we are having domestic fires, we are having industrial fires, and everybody is kind of like looking out to the government to do something.
Right.
But then we individuals can also come up with things that can help us because the government will put the policies in place and all of that. But if we can't do much for ourselves, the government cannot help. So we realized that it gets annoying, it gets stressful. Sometimes you're cooking in the middle of the night and then you just run out of gas.
You do.
Or before you know, your gas is leaking and
Right.
then we have some home fire and you can't do anything. So that became a necessity for us to think that, okay, so what can we do in the stance where your gas is leaking, or if there was the opportunity for you to even know that I have a gas leakage before it blows out of proportion,
Right.
you know, so that is just what happened, and then we had to come up with this.
So how exactly is this app supposed to work? Tell me a little about
Okay.
it. Do I have it on my phone, my tablet, and the
Yes.
what?
So first is a mobile app.
Okay.
It comes with a sensor or a regulator. You know the normal gas cylinder we use at home. We usually buy this regulator, we attach to it,
Right.
and then we use it to connect it to our blah, 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 you get it. So ours is a smart regulator, and what it does is that it has an inbuilt sensor which detects leakages on your gas, and then it enables you to also know the amount of gas that's left in your cylinder while you cook. So it becomes an app in the sense that you can go to Play Store or you get to download the app, which connects to the sensor that's on the regulator, and then you get push notifications or SMS messages which let you know every point in time how much cylinder is left. But the most important thing that this app does is the fact that it detects leakages. So it's not just for our homes, you know. With this fire explosion that's happening, for instance, the atomic one, for example, if they had a smart regulator which they were using, at least it wouldn't have just blown out of proportion.
Right.
Wherever the manager was, if he had signed up to this app, he could have gotten messages that says, hey, check your cylinder or check your so and so aspects, because there could be a leakage anytime soon, and then you can act upon it. So this is just timely, you know. It's something we've been putting out, and gradually, hopefully by December, it should be out in the market for everybody. But it just came in timely because it's just becoming too much now, you know, for these explosions to be happening all the time.
Efia, let me ask you, will this be the first time Smart Gas is bringing out something of this sort?
Yes. In fact, it is not something we have in Ghana now, so it is the first of its kind. And people will say, well, I have my regulator already, I don't want to change it and get any new one, especially for those that are not technology inclined.
Right.
But let me ask this question. Wouldn't it be exciting that, let's say you're a restaurant manager, and then you're in your office or you're in your home, on Sunday you're expecting your cylinder to be calmly resting.
Right.
And then some of your, you know, workers or someone are cooking their own thing elsewhere. And then you just get a message on your phone that says, hey, you've used 5% of your cylinder.
Right.
And so at the end of the month, you could even calculate what is going in there. And when we come to the government aspect, we are going to put in policies. But Ghanaians, our maintenance culture is poor. It's terrible. People have been using cylinders for years, and they haven't thought of renovating it or even getting a new one. So apart from this gas leakage detector that we have on our app, we can also swap your cylinder for you. So it could be in the comfort of your home. All you have to do is to send us a message for refill. We come and then we just swap it over. You don't have to be carrying your cylinder all around gas stations looking for, you know, gas everywhere.
Efia, let me ask you one final one. I mean, obviously cost will play a role. Is this free?
Obviously. Obviously, it's not free.
Well,
it's
Ghanaians
not
like
free.
things, so tell us about it.
It's not free. What it is that we want to go through the proper standardization and regulations that come with these things. Gas is a very delicate thing. So we are still going through these channels, and we are piloting it in the community so that by the time we put it out there, we have put all of this into the cost factor. And we wanted, or we are making it Ghanaian made. It's not something that's been done in China that can just, get messed up or spoiled. So the cost, we can let you know, but for now, we'll just advise people who are interested in it to sign on to our app or go to our website, which is www.smartgasapp.com, or contact us, Smart Gas App, or send us an email on info@smartgasapp.com, where we can let them know any other follow-up questions that
So the final rollout will be later this year. It hasn't come out yet.
Yes.
Right.
But it's important for stakeholders, government, and everybody else to come on board, because the world is moving at a pace that we cannot wait to be dying of artificial. Let the tsunamis, let the flood come, let the earthquake. But these things are stuff we can always prevent.
Definitely. On that note, that has been Efia Chirma with me. She's the PR and marketing officer with Smart Gas, and we've been talking about the Smart Gas app, which is yet to come. I hope you learned something about this, and hopefully you roll on to it when it comes. Welcome back. So we told you earlier that today is International Day of Girl Child. I'm a girl. Someone too is a girl here with me, and I'm talking about Asiedu. She's the founder for Power to Girls, and she's joining me to talk about what they plan to do for girls today. Good morning, Aisha. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. Thank you.
You're looking well.
Thank
indeed.
you. So are you.
So Power to Girls, you're a foundation, and obviously you're coming into Ghana for the first time. Well, to partner WILDAF to do this whole International Girl Day. Tell me about it.
So today is International Day of a Girl Child, like you mentioned, and we, in partnership with WILDAF and Crossroads International, we're putting together a conference for young junior high school girls. So we just realized that this is a day that is recognized across the world, and it's been happening since 2012, 2013. And for the first time, we really wanted to bring the girls together and give them an opportunity to connect with each other, but then also to hear from women that are in the community, women that are in their specific sectors, and just to empower them and to show them that they too can become and are somebody. So.
Okay, so where are you putting all these pretty ladies today?
So we are meeting at the Osu Presbyterian Hall, at the Carl Randolph Auditorium, and it's going to be from 12:30 till 5 p.m.
Everyone is allowed to come?
Yes, as long as you identify as a woman or as a girl and you want to hear from the amazing speakers that we have, most definitely.
Like, who exactly is going to be there?
So we have the Honorable Senator A. Rollins as our keynote speaker. We have Anita Eskin that is going to be providing us with a power talk. We have some lawyers, some doctors, some engineers that are going to be coming to talk to the girls about career options as well. So it's going to be a fun-filled and fun-packed day.
Aisha, for you live in Canada, so coming to Ghana, I would like you to contrast, between what you see when we talk about women empowerment in Canada and then what you see when we talk about the same thing in Ghana. Are you happy with the state you see in Ghana?
To be honest with you, it's actually not quite different. I think everywhere I go, I just recognize that culturally speaking, there is a way that we see women, and there is a way that we identify, or the way that we want women to be. It is very similar in Toronto, especially as a black woman and an immigrant living in Canada. So sometimes we take mentalities from Ghana, wherever it is that we're from, into like another country, and it just becomes that culture as well. So it's not different. One of the things that I realized is that girls still, sometimes feel like, they're underrepresented, their voices are not heard, and they cannot freely and openly discuss, some things that they might have issues with or things that they might have questions with. And it's the same over here in Ghana. The only difference is that in Ghana, it's really a girl's voice is really silenced, and on so many levels, even when we talk about education, you know, and there's always that idea that an empowered woman is, you know, a bit too much, or it's you know, she shouldn't be empowered because when she becomes empowered, she talks back to her husband, or you not find a husband, or, you know, all of these things. So it is a bit similar, and there is also some differences, but the issues remain the same.
Right, but looking at it in terms of education, do you think the educational, you know, way people are tutored or taught in schools, or let's say some way we impart knowledge to the girl child, may have a role to play? Because when you come to Ghana, like you said, because our culture plays a role, even in school, girls are given certain roles, whereas guys are given other roles. Do you see that same kind of socialization in the educational system, even in Canada?
So I guess maybe that might be just a little bit of a difference.
Right.
However, it is, I think it comes down to, like, specifically in Canada, one of the issues that we're always talking about is just how students are treated in the classroom. Right. So it's sort of like just in the way that we communicate with our kids, or like even with the students. Here in Ghana, it's more so, it's very vocal in like what, okay, no, you're supposed to sweep. Right. Have you ever seen them? And like, I've had conversations with people where they're like, no, you know, woman is supposed to sweep. I'm like, but who said that's what is, like, you know, the standard? Or who set that standard in the first place, right? So it is very vocal, and like it's something that you always see. And also considering that, like, education is something that is pushed outside, especially for girls as well. And, you know, we have organizations that are out there that are doing amazing things. And now I think the focus is around even getting girls into non-traditional roles. So like science, technology, engineering, math, and all of that stuff, right? So you realize that they see a gap, and they see that, excuse me to say, men are more vocal and more forward in these roles, and we want to bridge that gap. So yes and no.
For you, what do you think will be the ideal way to socialize a girl child, to empower her?
I think it really and truly starts in the home. And it's not just even empowering the girl child, but in also educating the men on how to talk to and how to treat women. Because I realized that most of the time, it's not that we want to disempower our young girls, it's just we focus so much on the boy and all the things that the boy is going to do. He's going to carry the family name, and he's going to do this. And for the girl, we always reduce to, you're going to become someone's wife someday. Why can't I be somebody myself before I become someone's wife? You know, and once you empower a girl child, she also empowers her kids, you know, so it becomes a ripple effect. But because, you know, we've started this cycle of just disempowering our young girls and telling them that they can only be someone's husbands for so long, it has become a bit of a stop. But I think we do have to, yes, empowering the girl child, but then also educating our young men on consent, on understanding consent, and understanding how to treat a woman, and really putting away with the gender roles that has been put in place specifically in Ghana.
Right. When you talk about feminism, do you think people are taking an extreme stance currently when they're so passionate about, you know, empowering the female?
Okay, so I'm going to say something that a lot of people might disagree with me on, and that is, I do not identify myself as a feminist, and I say that because it's a label, and it's a label that you're given the moment you say that you empower young girls, or you stand for equity and you stand for equality, and I do not identify with that for so many reasons, and just understanding how the feminist movement started in the first place, right? I do believe that everyone has a role to play in society. Whether you're a man or you're a woman, there is a specific role that you're supposed to play. And it's really in understanding that my work is not to disempower one gender to empower the other, but is to get each gender to understand that you play a role, I play a role, and that's how society in itself can move forward. So, yes, I always say this, that female empowerment is hot right now. It's the talk of the town. Everywhere you go, companies, businesses, everyone is trying to be diverse. And in that diversity, it's always, okay, how do we get a woman in here? You know, so it's a hot thing. But I think it's really understanding that I have something that I'm bringing to the table, and that should not be disqualified because I'm a woman. And I think that, for me, that's one of the main things. And yeah. That's about it.
Okay, Aisha, thank you so much for shedding some light on
me.
it. Definitely, today is International Day of Girl Child. I'm enjoying it. I plan to empower some girl out there, empower myself as well. I hope you plan to do the same. Anyway, this is all time will give us. We'll come back with more news here on New Day. Enjoy. Well, welcome back. It's still here on New Day. Today is Wednesday. Today you're doing pizza day. Oh?
Yeah, I'm doing pizza. Yeah, no, Tuesdays and Wednesdays to get the chance to get a few people excited. But
a few people.
Yes,
but I've never been part of your excitement.
Yeah, because it's intentional. Just make sure I cut you out, so the others they know themselves.
I thought you loved me. I thought we had something going.
I do. So I.
No, this I do is special. We have to call a committee
yours is a
to
special way of doing it and handling it. So that's it. And so. Oh, well, your time will come. My time will come.
But anyway, for those of you who don't see Johnny around, he's just stepped out to radio. He's still here with us in spirit, and you'll definitely be on, is it 3FM? Yes. He's there with Community Connect for you, so definitely join him there. But it's the birthday of Bernard. Bernard's surname, do I remember?
Is it Bernard the Soundman?
Yes, Bernard the Soundman. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, stay blessed.
Okay, when guys talk about their birthdays, I'm a bit worried about it because, you know, when ladies have their birthdays, it's not like guys. Guys, there's a birthday and you don't see anything. It's all you hear is birthdays. But the ladies' birthdays are always different. You find a few bottles of drinks, some cake around and stuff like that.
I think it's
the guys,
because there's some guys who really celebrate their birthdays in grand styles more than some women will. I think it comes to personality because even me as a female, I'm not a birthday person. I mean, probably just a cake, share with some friends. I'm good, but
all right.
I can't celebrate my birthday.
Right. Yeah, but it's also good in Liberia today. We're told that the counting is already on. Some results are coming in. Sometimes, like we said this morning, it is very difficult to have a clear winner when you have 20 people contesting for a single seat. We will not be surprised if we see the elections run into a runoff. But certainly from what we're gauging, it could be the Vice President Joseph Boakai against George Oponwea as in the runoff if it ends that way. But for me, the good thing is that it's been peaceful, it's been calm. A few issues here and there. I was excited, for instance, where you find a polling station of about 1,200 people, and you're told that it's just about only 2 people who could not vote because they had issues with their IDs and stuff like that. Right. Quite impressive there, particularly when it is Liberians who are organizing the elections compared to when the UN actually took over. It's a good thing for them, and I hope that we'll get to see the winner. But on the other side of the coin is Kenya. Not too exciting. Raila Odinga
has decided to step down.
I am wondering what he's done means to his supporters. Yeah. For instance, you have supported Odinga and felt that he was cheated. Yeah. Then when the man is able to get the court to annul the elections and there's a rerun, the man comes out and says, I'm no more interested. I'm pulling out. Well, he has legitimate reasons to pull out. But what about those who supported him? How would they feel? Yeah. That's a big question that everyone is asking.
I agree. I think my problem, like you said, if I was a supporter, I'll be disappointed in him. Yeah. Because really, if you knew this was the course you're going to tour all along, then why do you take us along with you on this rigorous path only to leave us stranded? I think it would have been nice if right from... I feel that personally what he wanted to do was allow the wheels of justice to grind and let everyone know that in Kenya there's a way to go about things and they follow a law.
There are disputes with elections.
There's a way of solving the dispute. So I'm happy he took that course. But again, like you said, what happens to his followers? I think maybe he should have been open with them right from scratch that this is what I want to do, but let's push it a little and see. But anyway, we're happy that it ends in peace, ultimately.
We'll hope that certainly there will be some way out, but supporters of Odinga are not too excited about it. The other side is that incumbent Uhuru Kenyatta supporters are excited. Some have already suggested, well, if Odinga is not contesting, then why not? Should we go ahead and swear him in as the president, or we'll go through the elections? But I think once the court has ordered for the election to be rerun, then we're likely to see an election. But I am always not too happy about wasting so much money on elections, particularly when we're told that $1 billion had gone into that particular election. Another one coming means more resources to be spent. So it's all good in Liberia. Let's hope that Kenyans will get it right and we'll see the kind of peace that we need.
Right, well, today we're talking about women, but you know there's an interesting phenomenon in Ghana where most churches are heavily populated by women, and actually some women leave their work to go to church. Is this the right thing to do?
Well, it depends on where you're from. I have noticed, I mean, this is my own observation, that most of the people you see at these churches are from people who run their own businesses. They can afford to shut the business and shut it between the church and then work.
Anyway, let's see what we have here with Portia Agaba. She sees people doing work in church.
Holy God! Fire! Holy God! Fire!
The Achimota Forest is a natural reserve and attracts a large number of people for different reasons. It's Friday morning, and the forest is the preferred choice for some worshippers at a time when man-hours is required to increase production and meet targets. Some individuals prefer to do otherwise, spending working hours praying. Perhaps their only reason is that their problems can be solved through prayer.
Every day, hundreds of Ghanaians with diverse needs and problems come here at the Achimota Forest to pray to God to attend to their needs. But we want to find out, where do we draw the line between religion and productivity?
Nanama is a seamstress, but she's not at work. She has left everything to seek the face of God, despite knowing her customers will be waiting on her.
My name is 17 years. Bema to quite 13 years. Bema nemba Canada. I did be a consider Sinuquano. Maybe she remarked Bompa said, Radim be a quine.
My husband has deserted me for 13 years. I don't mind closing down my shop for God to intervene in my situation.
Nanama is not alone. Pastor Boahin is a leader of the prayer group.
Bible says Jesus himself went to the desert and prayed. Because of that, we are here to pray. It's not every day we are here. We come here every Friday. I cannot force anybody. Come and pray, close your office or close your store and come and pray. Leave your work. No. But you know how. The reason, everybody have his reason.
Some come here to pray for 3 hours, 4 hours, and they go back to their work. You can go and sit there in your work the whole day. You will not get anything to do. But when you come here and you pray, the prayer moves mountains.
You may have a work doing it, but all of a sudden, you know what happened. Something happened that you may lose the job or the work or your marriage, and you don't understand. So you need to seek God. And one thing about it, when you don't pray, nothing happens. So through the prayer, seeking God, you may understand that this one that is happening, is it the physical thing or is it the spiritual thing? Maybe I need not to pray, but I have to check my life. I have to go work early. So all these things, we have to come to Christ because he is the author and the finisher. He knows where we should go. He will tell us the problem or the cause of our problem. That's why we are here.
For some churches in Accra, they will not converge at the Achimota Forest. They will, however, spend hours singing and praying to seek God's face.
The church have a day that has been set aside for prayer meetings. Then you say, I'm running out of work without a permission, and I'm going to the house of God to pray. I think that is an error. Maybe you are the CEO, maybe you are the supervisor, you have time. You are doing your private work. and you know you have problem, you come to the house of God and pray. It's not a mistake.
Under the labor laws, formal workers are to spend at least 8 hours at work with a 1-hour break.
I'm here because I have a covenant with God.
Are you a worker?
Yeah.
You sought permission before coming?
Yeah.
My company is in South Africa, and there is another one here which I'm trying to establish. So I have to seek the face of God. Then, by His grace, if everything works well, then I'm through. So because of that, more channels are being opened through this prayer and seeking the face of God. A lot of people don't have time for God. And one thing I know about God, if you don't have time for Him, He doesn't have time for you.
Government and the Trades Union Congress have for several years battled workers over low productivity.
We come to work and spend the first hour and more, not on the job we are paid to do, but on prayers. We go to all-night prayers and come to work the next day, tired and unfit for purpose.
Concern is that people spend time praying in the forest, prayer camps and churches, and they get to work and they are tired.
That is not true. People come to pray. When they come to church, we preach them, and they leave their bad behaviors. Those that have been stealing, they stop stealing from their workplace. So it is not true, because they come to hear the word of God and live according to the word of God. This has helped some of their work to grow, because they didn't come here just to go and sleep. For how long can you pray? 2 hours, 1 hour? How will you go and sleep? It is never true. So they should discard that idea and rather concentrate on prayer, because prayer moves mountains. Amen.
We sought answers from the Charismatic Bishops' Conference.
People are praying in the country, and you're thinking they are not going to work because they don't have work to do. And secondly, the problems of the country have not been solved in a way where people have hope. So for the absence of hope, people then turn to prayer to be able to pray. Because if you look at the country, a lot of young people, they've got problems.
Welcome back. So, of course, we want people to work and be productive, but definitely don't leave out the God factor. You should still pray, but maybe you should balance it so we get good productivity.
Why is your face straight like that? Why?
Because you know what you're doing. You really want me to say? Guys, don't mind Bright. He's a very naughty man.
Okay. So Vodafone is doing something wonderful. And of course, it's an exciting time for Vodafone.
It is, because they're saying the future is exciting.
Yeah.
They've taken away Vodafone power to you. Unfortunately, for
so it's no more power to us.
No,
but we're looking into the future.
Is exciting. Okay. Are you ready for them?
For those of us who are Vodafone users, the future is what we're looking for. So great times for us, and we hope to see more from Vodafone.
All I'm wishing is they keep me promotion. They shouldn't take it away. It should be for life.
Okay.
We're enjoying it.
All right. So, hey, you guys are Dansuman. Some roads around Dansuman are not too good when you are hitting the Ebenezer Secondary School, Dansuman Secondary School area. The roads are terrible. Ruth Osebwachi, I know you are there. You're watching. And that's why I'm referring to you. Have a good morning. And thanks so much for watching, Ruth Osebwachi. You know, I have it for you.
Hey. Anyway, happy birthday again to Bernard Hansi, and that's all we